Sorry, I gotta admit a bunch of people. Cool. Can folks see that? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Uh, well, so this is going to be about half of the communities I visited in since May. I know it says November there, but I've had a couple since then. I think the total is now officially up to like 20 that I've at least seen in the past year. A handful of those are like I just stopped in for a day or something like that. Um, like 10 days ish is maybe average for a stay on this adventure, but I did have a couple longer ones at the St. Isidore farm in New York as well. Um, yeah, so let's see here. Yeah, there's me milking a cow. My blog is there, catholicworkertheo.blogspot.com. I am trying to fundraise to visit the European Catholic workers this summer. And also like there's links to all these pictures and stuff like that, and even more pictures if you're looking for that. And I've written up little things for each community I've seen. It may or may not be super interesting. I don't claim to be Dorothy Day or whatever, but there's some nuggets of Catholic workerness in there. Yeah, you might be like Theo that those numbers don't add up to 20. Some of the houses are in the same city as each other, and so yeah, I didn't realize how many Catholic worker road trips I'd been on going from place to place. Those are always very fun, and there's like a there's like a similarness to a lot of them of like the sharing of Catholic worker stories and clarification of thought and stuff that just ends up happening for a few hours in the car. So Brian and Betsy drove me from Des Moines. They're on this call. I got to ride with Julie Brown across Iowa to visit a farm. That was really great. Amanda and I rode down from the National Gathering. So if you ever get a chance for some Catholic worker car trips, go for it. So yeah, the Strangers and Guests in Maloy, Iowa is where we're going to start. The tiniest town of all the Catholic workers I visited, is that it's official. They think there's about 20 folks there now in Maloy. So yeah, and I was there this summer, and then I was there again just last week for their craft retreat, and so we'll see some pictures from both of those. The goats in Maloy are maybe like as famous as the people of Brian and Betsy of Maloy. Not least of which because Brian's often bringing his goat cheese to Sugar Creek and whatnot. So I was there. Brian had just flown back in from, I think, Germany, where he was doing some court stuff for protesting nukes there. And I was coming at that time from the mustard seed farm in Ames. So we met in Des Moines. The baby goats had not yet started to be separated from their mothers during the evening, which is a necessary component to have milk for the people to use. So I got to be part of the goat walk every evening, where we'd take the babies would follow their moms, but we'd have to walk the moms up to this higher pen where the babies were going to get left to spend the night each day. And so that's what's happening in this picture here. Frida, Lily, and Ruby are the goats' names, and their dairy is all over the Maloy farm meals there. Oh, I almost took this one out. That's a picture of the some roasted goat next to a baby goat. These were the noodle beans, and they were my favorite vegetable that I saw at all the Catholic workers that I visited this year. Uh, they're pretty long. You can maybe tell from that, like 18 inches, 24 inches, or something like that. I think we'd often eat them in like a stir fry, but just picking it off the plant and munching on one while pulling weeds was also a nice thing. But yeah, I think that was maybe my favorite vegetable of all the Catholic worker vegetables this year. Uh, and there's some more vegetables, garlic, drying. Yeah, there's fruit trees, very nice looking sunflowers. Those are some peaches I helped pick, and we had some tasty peach cobbler. I included the rainbow flag there hanging from the porch. A little while ago in the Catholic worker Facebook sphere, somebody asked, what would the Catholic worker flag be? And this is the one that in my experience, or versions of it that are at most Catholic workers, often saying peace or something like that in various languages. So these are a couple of the newer photos from the craft retreat that was just happening there. You can see the goats are now in the snow. And Brian there, that's some freshly stretched mozzarella that they were making for pizza that night. One of the folks there was going to make it. They do all kinds of cheeses there in Maloy. They'll do the mozzarella. Feta is a favorite. They do some aged cheeses. They have like a cheese cellar in the basement. Some soft cheeses they'll add herbs to and stuff like that, and yogurt and stuff too. It was a craft retreat. So oops. The folks on the right are doing some lashings, so tying some stuff together, techniques that could be used for like trellising or fence making, stuff like that. And then on the left, somebody was showing off their mending. Those are different like stitches and patches kind of things that they sewed up their jacket. Some pretty cool designs. I had actually just talked to Andrea from the Bloomington Catholic worker that we're going to look at in a little bit, and about how mending is her favorite thing in the world. I hope to get that conversation up on the blog soon if you got caught that earlier. I think I saw Matt put it in maybe he's put it in the chat. And here's Betsy getting the loom ready to do some weaving, some rag rug weaving, I think it is. And it was a whole process, took a whole morning. I don't know if you can really see there. So all these spools of different colors, and has to feed them precisely through the little guiding mechanism, and then rest them correctly over that first part of the loom. I'm sure there's official words for all of these things, but I do not remember them. But yeah, it took a good chunk of a morning just to get ready to do some weaving. And there's me doing said weaving on the right. On the left, I'm stitching some jean rags together, and that's what is going to get fed in between all those strings there to make the rug. You too could go to the craft retreat next year and make a rug, and you might even be able to ask Brian and Betsy if you can't make it in the winter. Maybe there's another time of year. I think they like having visitors. Yeah, there's just a smaller table loom on the left there. So that's just like a smaller version sitting on the dining room table. And then on the right, some candles that they had made. The plate on the left that was the first dinner at the craft retreat, and it has like mostly farm grown stuff. That's some goat there with some farm horseradish, and quiche with chicken and apple and leeks are all from the farm, and that's a piece of goat cheese on the bread there. They do grow potatoes, but I don't think that those are their potatoes. And then that's a cat. They have a cat, cats that live outside their Catholic worker, and a neighbor dog. So if you're a dog person, you can say hi to the neighbor dog. But they just do the cats and goats and chickens. That's a relic of Ammon Hennessy's. I'm not exactly sure what part of his body it is there. And then that's a card from Dorothy Day. It says, we are all remembering you in our prayers. Have you read Salone's Bread and Wine? It says, one voice crying out upsets the state. Love in Christ, Dorothy. And it's addressed to Brian there too. Yeah, it's hard to know what to leave in and leave out. There's so much for all these communities. They would also do prayer each day and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a chunk of Maloy. Here's some art. I took a lot of pictures of art as I went around. I didn't include all of it here, but like what hangs out on Catholic worker walls is kind of interesting to me. So there's an easy essay there about throwing the money changers out of the temple, and Dorothy not liking the filthy rotten system there too. After Maloy, I went to Chicago, and this is the Emmaus house here. If you've ever listened to the Coffee with Catholic Worker podcast, Lydia, my co-host, this is the community she lives in. I think last year was their 10th anniversary, actually. So yeah, that's a picture of it right off the Pink Line. Across the street, they have there's kind of a community garden they help take care of. They don't officially own it, and they share all the produce, as you can see in that lower picture there. But Lydia and Maria Berg and others help take care of that. The picture on the right there is actually the chicken coop, and I just really enjoyed the chicken coop art and think that there needs to be more chicken coop art on the sides of chicken coops. So that's why I threw that one in there. And this is inside the chicken coop. They have the Mary statue in there. It reminded me of this Ade Bethune piece, Our Lady of Chickens. So yeah, Mary in the chicken coop. This is just their living room here on the left. I don't know if you can kind of see up on the wall. There's like printed out computer pictures of people. We'll see a couple more of those in the next slide. They did it for like Black History Month, I believe it was. Printed out these pictures, and they have names under them, so you can learn about folks maybe you didn't learn about. I was visiting in August or something, so I guess Black History Month was just going, all year there, which is great. The bottom right picture is just a kitchen. At some point, when I was getting input from folks, it was mentioned by a few different people that I really like seeing pictures of Catholic worker kitchens. So I wasn't doing it all along the way, but every now and again, you'll just see a picture of a kitchen in there. And that's why. Here's some more of the just printed pictures hanging up around there. Dr. Carter Woodson was a historian. And then we got a couple music folks, Kendrick Lamar and Fela Kuti. That lower picture, I don't know if you can really tell. It's me taking a picture in a giant wall full of mirrors. I guess whoever owned the house before them had a thing for mirrors, and there's just like mirrors all over the house, like whole walls that are just mirrors. And this is one that they did not take out because it's, I guess, a bit of a pain to try and remove all those mirrors. Most of the folks there were involved in the Chicago mutual aid efforts there that started during the pandemic. And actually, I believe they were like the principal founders, the Emmaus House folks, but it is a lot bigger than just them now. And there's like a whole Chicago-wide network. So theirs is just the West Side, I think is West Side Mutual Aid, I believe is what theirs is called. So they would just go and pick up, like a lot of Catholic workers, throw away stuff. That's what's happening there on the left. There was a big warehouse that they just kind of got connected to. And they would drive it all to a church and then pull it out. And that's what we're doing there on the right, just piling it up and seeing how much we have. And then they would already have had a different volunteer call folks to make sure they knew we were coming and if they wanted a bag of groceries, and then we just divide it up as evenly as we could. Folks could also request some things. They had a fund to buy stuff if what was coming in wasn't what was needed to. And then there were just teams of folks who would drive them around and drop it off at people's doors. I was part of a crew that went outside of kind of a lower income apartment complex, I think is what it was, for older folks mostly. And so we kind of just set up like shop on the curb, and folks could come down and kind of shop at that centralized location and pick out whatever was needed. And it was often older folks with walkers and stuff, so we'd help them grab what they needed. These next couple slides are, again, this is not like an official Emmaus House project, but just like a lot of crossover. They do the jail support for folks coming out of lockup in Chicago, out of the county jail. Like the mutual aid that kind of started out as a response to the pandemic and then just continued on because it was so needed. This kind of started for them and their friends, not just Emmaus House, I believe, during like the George Floyd summer, protesters getting released and stuff. And they were just kind of like, well, this is a handy thing for everybody. Let's just keep it going. So you can see we got a bunch of snacks there and Gatorades, and that van on the left it gets parked near the Emmaus House. The jail support uses their garage for all the storage and stuff like that, the Emmaus House garage. That's a real Catholic worker van right there. You can see the mismatched door on it because it just fell off one day and they had to get this one that is maybe like formerly a police van door. You can see it says supervisor there. It doesn't have any seats in the back, so we had 3 people, so somebody just kind of had to sit there, on the floor. But it only has to drive like 1.5 miles to get to the jail and back each day. So here's the tent. There's a list of all the things we gave out, not only food, but we'd lend folks cell phones if folks were not adequately dressed, I guess, especially in the winter. Sometimes they would release folks and just like they're wearing shorts and a t-shirt or something in Chicago, so they have sweatshirts and stuff, belts and shoelaces if they folks didn't get it back coming out. And cigarettes, folks get 2 cigarettes. That was one of the bigger cost items actually in the Chicago area. And we had this nice tent. The police didn't love the mutual or the jail support people, and we kind of got yelled at by this one cop and stuff. But they've been doing it pretty consistently. St. Francis House is also in Chicago. I spent just a couple days there. They have guests living in the house there with them, doing that kind of hospitality. They do like a Trader Joe's run each week and kind of an informal distribution. They have an open meal and stuff like that there. They have a nice garden in the back. That's what we're looking there on your left. Some kale and corn we can see there, and nice solar-powered laundry dryer there on the right. This is looking from the backyard toward the street on the left there. And then this picture of the VHS tapes is nothing super specific. It just made me think of Catholic worker houses, that there's just like this random collection of random VHSs, now like 2 or 3 times antiquated medium of entertainment. Yeah, just a cozy couch there. They're very welcoming first floor. That's an easy essay on the right, handwritten by Peter Morin, that they just have on their wall. Uh, I was talking to Lincoln Rice, who just did his book on Peter Morin. He didn't believe me. He's like, no way, they just have an easy essay handwritten on the wall. But he confirmed that's Peter's handwriting. So here's just some more of that Catholic worker art. You got Bob Marley keeping an eye on the keyboard there, the piano. Woodstock on the right again. I feel like that's like in a lot of Catholic worker like basements, that poster. And then that other poster says the best things in life aren't things. Kitchen picture here. The name of the oven brand was Imperial, so somebody stuck their own little graffiti on there to make it say no imperialism, if you can read that. So that was a pretty fun little addition from a Catholic worker there. This is the front porch. It's the kind of what I would call the smoking porch at this Catholic worker. Not every Catholic worker house has a smoking porch, but a lot of them do. A place where often somebody has a cigarette lit, or just folks just congregate outside on like hot days. It was August in the city there, so it was in the evening a lot nicer just to sit out there. It's kind of my selfie there on the right with their cool sign that I liked. I don't know. I don't think I mentioned earlier. I don't have a ton of people in the pictures I took. Part of that is a lot of Catholic workers, aren't into taking pictures of guests. Sometimes in the nonprofit industrial world, there can be like weird exploitative things about that. But also, like, I'm in people's houses, and sometimes you don't want like the visitor just like documenting your life. Like, I'm just trying to sit here and have my cup of coffee, and Theo's trying to photograph me is not always the best feeling. So yeah, if some folks have wondered why aren't there more people, and that's kind of why. This fall, I found myself out in Worcester for the national gathering, and Mike Boover invited me to come out earlier and to hang out in Worcester, and I'm really glad I did. Got to check out the mustard seed here. There's a picture of their yard. I guess during COVID, that's where they just ate outdoors for like that whole winter when it was really bad. So that had to be pretty cold in Massachusetts there. And some nice flowers and stuff. That's Matt and Jed from the LA Catholic Worker there. Just another view of like their yard. They have a pretty nice yard. Folks start coming a little bit before they serve to hang out and stuff, get a cup of coffee and whatnot, and have a cigarette out at the picnic table there. They had a more industrial kitchen for their bigger feeding operation, which plenty of workers have that feed as many as they do. I was there on pizza night, the once a month pizza night. So that was pretty delish. And they also had like spaghetti with big old meatballs and stuff. I don't know if it's always as tasty as when I was there, but it was quite the feast. And folks would sit down either around these tables or out at those picnic tables we saw a minute ago, and there were volunteers who would go around asking if you needed more food or drink or whatnot, and cleaning up when people got up. This room got really full when I was there. They still had the windows open kind of to get some cross breeze, but yeah, COVID was still on folks' minds. I mean, as it should be for other folks. And that was an interesting thing about like my travels generally, is I was sometimes straddling this COVID line. Like for St. Francis House we just looked at, I was like the first visitor they'd had since the COVID, and they were like, this is kind of our opening back up to visitors, hopefully, is having you here, Theo. So there was stuff like that along the way too. Upstairs, they have an office at the Mustard Seed there on the left, and a nice chapel. I believe it was used more pre-COVID, but they're getting back. We're getting back in the flow of it when I was there, and some Stations of the Cross there on the bottom that are around in their chapel. Their basement had, dry goods to hand out, clothes to hand out. When I was there, a whole bunch of blankets got donated, and then we're back out the door to folks just that same day. They had a doctor's office down there too, where a volunteer doctor would come and take care of needs as well. Oh yeah, here's me talking at the first round table they'd had since COVID. There's another Catholic worker in town. I only got to spend an evening there eating dinner with Scott and Claire. There's their kitchen again, one of those Catholic worker kitchens. They've been there. I don't remember how long. I should have looked that up, but they infamously took the lock off their doors when they started their Catholic worker house. Is a well-told story. And they do housing for a few folks who wouldn't be housed otherwise, and nothing not like a huge project. It's kind of just the two of them running it, I believe. They have a garden tree in the back there and a canoe. Not every Catholic worker has a canoe, but some of them do. It's not the only canoe Catholic worker out there. They've been doing a peace vigil once a week since like the invasion of Iraq, maybe, or something like that. So a long time, with friends out there holding signs, the Worcester workers, and this is again something plenty of Catholic workers do. LA did it for many years, many days a week. Oh, here's a couple National Gathering pictures. If you missed the National Gathering, on the right is like the College of the Holy Cross grads panel. There's been like a dozen graduates of that college that was hosting us in Worcester, who went on to the Catholic worker movement. And so they talked in the library about that experience the evening before. That left picture is Michael on the left, and I think Anne is her name in the middle, and Martha on the right, who are speaking to a class of students on the contemplative, or in action is what it was called. So about Dorothy Day and all that stuff. It was catered by the university, so here's like the shiny coffee pots. It was really tasty, really delicious food, but it felt fancier than any Catholic worker gathering I'd ever been to. Here's some round tables. One on the left was on nukes, and I think the bishop's recent letter about that, maybe. I didn't go to that one exactly. The one on the right was about Catholicism and the Catholic worker. We got Rosalie there leading that conversation. Talent show. Some humorous jail letters were being read there on the left, and then this is the Mustard Seeds dining room with full of Catholic workers. We had breakfast there the last morning, so that's kind of what it looks like full. Philadelphia was interesting. I'd known Johanna and Mary Beth were also former LA Catholic workers, as I am, and they're unique as far as I know, in that they are medical providers themselves who run a healthcare clinic. Plenty of other Catholic workers have outside organizations or volunteers who do that part of the work, but they're each like a nurse practitioner and physician's assistant. They were on the podcast recently, Coffee with Catholic Workers, it's called, that I co-host. One of the more interesting, and so you should check it out because they're way more interesting than hearing me talk about it. But one of the interesting things they thought about that fact that they were both Catholic workers and healthcare providers is that when other healthcare providers would come in to volunteer, they would see them like taking out the trash themselves. Or like meds, they were like, we're really glad when like the med school students come in and see us, the providers, doing the Catholic worker work, like taking out the trash or sweeping up or whatever. So they've been there for like 30 years. They do vaccines and COVID stuff, but it's also a little bit of like a drop-in center too. Folks can come get a shower, they can get hygiene stuff, they might have a snack, directions, bus passes, stuff like that, as well as like, again, like real medical stuff. They're not anyone, they're not like anyone's primary caregivers, but they can like deal with stuff immediately. And if they need to get plugged into like the longer term medical care, they can help with that too. So that's a bunch of doctors or medical stuff on the table there. You can see this is kind of me standing in the doorway entering their clinic. You see the books there, bookshelf, people can get a book, scale, everyone gets weighed before they're seen. Upstairs is like the exam rooms, and there's another bathroom up there. Those filing cabinets there are full of like records, mostly medical records, but also anytime someone comes in for something, they like get a chart made up for them, just so you know like how many times somebody's came in and asked for help getting an ID or a bus pass or something. On the first night I was there, it was like very calm. It was the beginning of the month. The Phillies were in the World Series that night, so it was a pretty slow crowd, and that was nice. I got to like just kind of see it all. They had a lot of volunteers. They're really big on having regular volunteers, and it makes sense just for like getting to know stuff there. So they had like a nursing student and another nurse and another just volunteer there. So I kind of just got to hang out. It was really nice. But the other couple of days I was there, they did not like have the full volunteer staff, and it felt a little like go, like I'm like doing like medical like basic screenings and stuff like that. And that door in the middle there has like over the counter medicine in it. There's a hygiene closet and showers I was in charge of doing. So it when it got busy, it got going. But the folks who were in the rhythm there, they knew what they were doing. That's on the right there is hygiene items for folks. They did showers each day, like 10 plus showers for folks. So, you got all your different stuff in there. They have a dental clinic too, but they have not had a dentist in a long time. So now it's kind of the sock storage space, the dentist office there. If you know a Philly dentist, they want to be your friend, the Philly workers. That's an exam room, some art there. This is on the left is a garden that got redone by an outside organization that they own. It's kind of just like a nice sitting hangout space. They also do a vegetable garden near their house. So I don't think I explained a minute ago, we were looking at the health clinic, which is a few blocks from the actual hospitality house where they have a number of folks living, and the Mary Beth and Johanna who run it live there. And then they have this garden and a vegetable garden there too. So that's just a few blocks away. On the right there is Johanna talking to Shane Claiborne, who was kind of a person maybe like 5 or 8 years ago, maybe still is. He has like a shop. They're in the same neighborhood, and he has like a shop where he turns weapons into gardening tools nowadays. So they kind of know each other from being, radical Christian community people in the same neighborhood there. I don't know. Most of the stuff like I take away from places is pretty positive. They're just outside of like where they live though. There's some pretty crazy like opioid stuff actually, like, and pretty startling. So a lot of good work to do there. They like carry Narcan with them all the time and have had to use it and stuff like that. So just some more art there. Black Lives Matter, Mary, and number of Catholic workers, and it makes sense. The healthcare clinic have these mobility devices just sitting around for when folks need them. So I stopped at Casa Maria in Milwaukee, but it was like a really bad timing thing. They had like a COVID positive in the house right before my visit, and actually right after them, I was going to see my dying from cancer grandmother at her retirement community. So I kind of did not hang out very much at Casa Maria for that reason. Uh, and I ended up staying with Lincoln Rice, who many folks on this call will know, which ended up being like a blessing. Normally, I want to stay in the community house, but it kind of worked out with this COVID thing. But they have space for a few families in this house here, Casa Maria. The Catholic workers live down the block. They have a few house shifts each day, and as many Catholic workers will be like know about a house shift. They answer the door, stuff, answer the phone, stuff like that. So I did get to hang out for one of those house days, but I need to make it back up there. Here's their Catholic worker van with all their peace stickers and stuff on it. Another not uncommon Catholic worker thing, and their peace pole there on the right. They got a Dr. Bronner connection there in Milwaukee somehow. They get Dr. Bronner stuff, so they got a license plate, a bumper sticker for that. In addition to doing like the house where they had a few families living, they also had a house on the block where they would allow folks who were dealing with like child protective services or whatever it's called in their local area, where it's like you have to like establish that you have like a good place to live to get your kids back kind of thing. And so that was a more long-term place was another of their projects, as well as they did do some accompaniment around that, like going to court and stuff like that. It's pretty wild. They like poorer and often blacker families like won't get any help monetarily from like the state, but when kids are taken away and given to like other families who are often more white, they get like a big stipend for taking care of the kid, which, I get why that would be needed, but like maybe we wouldn't be taking the kid away if we, just supported the mother in the first place. St. Isidore was one of my bigger stays. It was kind of my anchor stay for my Midwest travel, which was good to have those longer stays. It gets a little tiring moving around all the time. You don't always remember what you said to which people and stuff. Cows, they had 5 cows there. The one on the left there, whose name I don't remember, is the one I learned to milk, but they had a few other ones. Hallow, who was born on Halloween. Dandelion was one I know. Felix was one. They had a tradition where whoever they would obviously know if a cow was pregnant. So each morning and evening they'd go and check when it was getting close to the birth date, the due date, and whoever found the cow first got to name it, was the tradition. So the kids would, be going out each morning to try and see, would they be the one to find the baby cow first? Yeah, so that's their underpass right there. The cows are coming out of. Their property was divided by the road. There's 5 cows. There was a delicate balance of the cows have to get along. So they have different pastures. So in this picture, we're like moving the cows into different spots because some of the cows couldn't be with the other cows, but they all had to have a friend. And if they didn't have friends, they'd moo. So it was a all hands on deck. We were kind of wandering around going, scaring the cows this way or that, holding the non-electrified fence, kind of being like, go that way, cows. You don't know it's not electrified right now. So that's what's happening in this picture here, moving the cows around to be with their cow friends. Yeah, there's me milking again, and just I'm not normally a cream in my coffee person, but it was just like so good to have that cream, right? Just skimmed. So I would do it sometimes. Again, they would do cheese and yogurt there, and we did ice cream one night. I looked for the picture. They had like an old time crank ice cream maker, and that was really good with like the fresh dairy and eggs from the chickens and stuff. This is feta making here in this picture. The earlier stuff on the left, and then you let it sit and drain, and it looks like that on the right after like 24 hours, and then they'd cut it up and soak it in salt water to like in the fridge to keep it after it had fully formed. Here you can see on the left, like I'm not a cheese expert, like the curds in the whey are separating, if you've ever heard of those things, and so the whey had to drain off there. This is their barn, really nice barn. The lower level, great tool space and stuff like that. And the upper inside level could be used for hosting and prayer and stuff. When they did their week-long workshop, with a bunch of folks coming in, they could have picnic tables over that overhang. And this picture on the left is their outdoor kitchen, which is under that overhang on the barn. So in the summer, instead of like heating up the inside of the house with a wood stove, they could do it outside. And that came in handy too for like cooking for big groups during their growing roots, their week-long workshop. And then you got a sink right there. It's a pretty nice view to be doing the dishes, out in nature, looking at some trees. You got St. Joseph the Worker there on their tool bench. Classic Catholic worker art. Here's the inside of that cabin. They did morning prayer, or of the barn, they did morning prayer each day, and that's what we're looking at on the left. Kind of, we'd come in and do a reading from scripture, I think, and a reflection, and then sit there quietly for a while and then pray. They are a Catholic worker who are like, we don't have meetings in our community. And I think it works for them because there's only like 2 families there. And then also because they pray every morning, they can just kind of be like, what's happening today? What work needs to get done? where are folks going? What are the kids doing? And that top picture there is traditional names and locations of Native American nations. I spent a lot of time chopping firewood when I was at the St. Isidore farm, which is fine by me. I like chopping wood. It's like meditative for me. But we had a couple field trips where we'd go to a friend's land who had trees that had fallen down, and we'd collect the wood and stuff because that's how they heat their home in Wisconsin in the winter. So you need a good chunk of wood. Right now, they're trying to figure out, is there a way to cut more off of this giant tree that would be safe with the chainsaw? Because you don't want the wood moving different ways, the chainsaw flying this way or that. So they're trying to figure out where's the weight resting on, and can we cut more? Yeah. This is the entrance sign to their farm there on the left, and a picture of St. Isidore. He's a farmer on the right. You probably can't tell. In his hand is a picture of an angel plowing. That's like the legend around St. Isidore. He could just pray and the angels would do the farm work for him. There's Isidore and Maria again. Of all the Catholic worker houses that I've been to, theirs has the most pictures of their patron saint. They just have tons of Isidores around. I think at some point maybe it just started being like, oh, we need to think up a gift for somebody at St. Isidore. Oh, let's like buy them this icon of St. Isidore. They'll like that. And then on the left there is a picture of the driftless region, which is kind of the driftless region is where they are. It's Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa over there, and it's like where the glaciers did not flatten everything during the ice age or whatever. So it's different. If you're ever in that part of Iowa, it's very hilly and stuff like that. It's not like a real flat farmland or anything. And they're into the driftless there. This is just a little cabin on the left, a fire pit on the right. This is the underside of their solar panels, which doubled as the tool shed / keeping the bales of hay dry shed. So it's a big solar panel there you're looking at. just picture their garden. They grew all kinds of stuff. They grew like tons of garlic, and like that's probably their number one crop was garlic. But between the like butter from the cows and the garlic, that is the secret of Catholic worker cooking, I think, is garlic and butter. So they're set. This was so that the first week I was there was their Growing Roots workshop, which focused on decolonization and deep ecology. They invited their friend Mishikan to speak, who's like a native person, elder, knowledge keeper. And he was like, you know what we're going to do instead of just like a talk is we're going to build like a sweat. And so that was like an interesting experience. The week-long workshop, had this decolonization focus. And one of the first like lessons is that he was like, well, he didn't bring any of the supplies necessarily. He was like, oh, we'll just go get some willows branches to build the frame, but it's all like on private property and stuff. So it's difficult to like find these supplies, and like that's kind of started an interesting conversation about like, yeah, technically it's not illegal to like do these ceremonies like it was in the past, but like because of like the weird things of like property laws, it's just like impractical to do it. So in the end, some Catholic worker folks had to trespass to get these willow branches to build the sweat there. Yeah. I was just last week in Bloomington, Indiana, at the Bloomington Catholic Worker. They have like four houses that are all next door to each other, and it's kind of a communal, private combination living situation there. That's the Little Way house. I don't know if you saw in that other picture, they chalked this big welcome Theo on the side of their building for my arrival there. That's the chapel in the back there. They built that some years back, and they do prayer every morning. Here's a picture of that by like firelight, candlelight, sing a song, read the scripture, meditate or journal for a while, do some prayers, sing another song. It's great. I love the daily prayer thing. And it was a beautiful space too. Here's from the inside of that Little Way house. The radish is their mascot. So this is a big tile floory entranceway on their floor there. That picture is like 4 feet by 4 foot, that radish, the whole tile area there. So it's a good size little entranceway. Ross and Andrea and their family live in this house, as well as Kyla, who's like exploring joining their community long term, I think, is where it officially stands. Ross is a big music person, and so their family does jams together and stuff. One of the kids is learning to play the upright bass there. Here's just the Catholic Worker kitchen. It's kind of just a normal house. Folks all like kind of live in their own houses as they do with a family unit and another person or a variety of folks. But it is kind of like folks just go in and out of other buildings. Maybe you give like a polite knock kind of thing, but like the common spaces are a little bit shared, kind of, sort of. So it's just normal house. This is their next door house, Romero House, where they had a family who'd be homeless otherwise staying there. On their right, you can see like a bike shed kind of thing, and they have this sign posted, "Please do not steal from us. We need and use these bicycles." I guess that sign did not always work, and people would sometimes still steal the bicycles, as you might imagine. But they would do community dinners in here Monday through Thursday, I think it was, as well as like Sunday evening community building activities in this house. The backyards are all kind of like one big backyard, and it's great for like the kids can just run around all together, and the dogs get a bigger backyard. On the left there, you can see in the foreground or near the camera, like picnic tables. They'll eat outside in the warmer months, and wood for that prayer shed there on the right. But yeah, this is just like all their yard, and they all kind of just share it. Got a fire pit, chicken run there. No chickens currently, but a nice looking spot for them. The next was Eugene Debs' house, named for the anti-war socialists admired by Dorothy Day and Ammon Hennessy. Another Brett and Sarah Lynn's family lived there with another intern, Gabe. They have that garden plot there in the backyard, if you can see that. This tile work is around a lot of the houses, and there's a lot of pieces. They have a friend who's really good at it, and actually, if you remember the Saint Isidore sign, that was that same artist too. This is the house I stayed in, the new house. It didn't have a name yet, but I stayed in there. They had somebody who had been released from prison who needed a place to stay, and another guy who I never met because he was in like a medical rehab kind of place. Here's Ross doing some construction. It was like 18 degrees that morning, but we were out there making a handrail for the guy coming out of medical rehab. And in Bloomington, they're talking about building a new county jail. So here's a sign in one of the yards, opposing that. I got to hang out with Chris and Sarah, who, if you've ever listened to the podcast I do, Chris is our editor for it. They're starting kind of a land-based project of their own outside of Bloomington. Turning Ground is the name, and I went out one day and helped them tap some maple trees on their land, and then that's on the left there, us boiling down the sap. It takes a lot of boiling to get it down, and then on the right was my like half cup of maple syrup. That was my share. I have not eaten it yet, so I'm saving it for a special pancake coming up here. The Common Home Farm is a project started by some folks who were previously at the Bloomington house, Laura and David, and they're doing a farm project. They've had a number of folks over the years in the community, but I think they're looking for more if you want to reach out. Here's some more of that great tile work. I like the contrast with the wood burning stove there. And that does most of the heating for the house, I think, or a good chunk of it. And there's the house there on the left. The Laura and David and their kids live upstairs, and there's a guest room right there and a kitchen and stuff. Here's on the right, Laura and I planted some seeds, but it was going to get kind of cold, so she's trying to put a heat lamp in this insulated box to keep them cold or to keep them warm. Here's the kitchen and a cool owl that they had in the window there. You can see a lot of around the up top there, a lot of jars. That's a Catholic worker thing too. A variety of jars with a variety of stuff in them. You just see it everywhere. Oh, here's that the entrance room with that where that big wood burning stove was. It's a guest room sometimes, a hangout room sometimes. And they have this cabin on the property too, which is pretty nice for other community members to stay in. That's their prayer space on the left there, outdoors, and some bees on the right. Here's where they grow food. Tiny house on the left there, currently unoccupied, and then tool space on the right. I was just going to mention, I know we've been going like an hour. One of the more interesting projects I saw was of Alex, who I lived in community with in LA, and she's in Elizabeth, New Jersey. One reason I liked hers and wanted to include it in this talk too is a lot of people ask, like, I'm not ready to just move into a giant Catholic worker house or live in community and stuff, but like I'm drawn to this. And so Alex and just like a couple friends and a couple volunteers out in Elizabeth, New Jersey, they just like rent an event space every Monday because like people don't have parties on Mondays, and serve out of this event space. So she just has like a normal job and cooks food at her house. They do get donations of stuff like hygiene and stuff there, you'll see. But she'll just cook and then bring it over to this party space. That picture on the right is just kind of like, I guess, a background. You could get your picture taken at the party. It says "Oh baby" at the top there. Yeah, so I think that's like a really great project, because it is just like, yeah, we're just going to do this as something we do and live a normal life. And then I did visit just last week, just for an overnight, the White Rose Catholic Worker Farm. They're kind of low tech. They don't do screens on their farm at all. They live pretty simply out in northern Missouri. So this is the only picture I took of their entranceway there. And again, that's that same tile artist. But yeah, that it was interesting to see them. They work with horses. So they have like horses that can plow and stuff like that. And they had a horse-powered laundry system where the horse walk in a circle and crank a big crank, and that turns the agitators and the ringers inside of a building near there. So that all was pretty cool to see, and pretty different too. So yeah, that's about 10 or so Catholic workers I visited this past year. Do I have any? Oh, here's a picture of me in a bee suit. If you want to come Sunday at the same time, I'll be doing a whole another set of Catholic workers that I visited. And again, there's my blog. If you want to read about any of these places or look at even more photos, you can find that through there. I have a few videos. I'll have even more stuff up when I get time to do it. So yeah, thanks for coming. And if anyone has questions or just at all, I'm free to hang out for as long as we want. Or yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Theo. It was really nice to see some communities that I've only ever heard about. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I almost made a joke about the cat and the meal being like, and that's cat meat after the goat. But that's all. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Often there are, in my experience, there's like cat Catholic workers and dog Catholic workers. And usually they're different. The dog Catholic workers say it's bad hospitality to have cats because so many people are so allergic to them. But then the cat Catholic workers say, well, it's bad hospitality to have dogs because people are afraid of dogs sometimes. So it's an eternal debate. I feel a little nervous having people whose houses I've seen were on the call. I hope I didn't misrepresent anything too badly.
Just so long as the rumor that we eat cats doesn't get out. That's we'll know it started here.
Yes.
And our cats do stay outside. So they live with the goats.
Best kind of cat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be back on Monday or on Sunday.